And he also mentioned, like, for example, when he met Sam Altman back then, he was just a 19-year-old boy or something like that.
I would say OpenAI did a great job and a terrible job at the same time. Let me explain why.
And he believed that AWS is not doing well because AWS spent it so much on cloud computing, but the future is probably...
I'll tell you more about this. There's already trillions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars investing in this. If you're founders, my honest feedback for you is this is easy money. This is really easy money.
All right, filming. So I went to Stanford University to meet the CEO of YC China. Previously YC China, now it's rebranded as MiraclePlus. It was an event that my friend organized.
We human beings, 24 hours, only 3 hours we do useful stuff. The other 21 hours, we sort of goofing around. We hallucinate way worse than those models. Sometimes we are envious, sometimes we are depressed, sometimes we are hateful, we lie, we cheat. Of course, we also do good stuff. But these agents, we can program in that way, they only do good work and non-stop.
And we did have the chance to also have like an in-person small group discussion with him to have a Q&A after the big presentation. And I just wanted to share what I have learned from him and what inspired me the most. And most importantly, what's the difference between YC China and YC elsewhere, YC US? So let's get started. So the CEO of YC China, his name is Lu Qi. He used to be a vice president at I think Yahoo and Microsoft. And then he went back to China. He became a top lead in Baidu. And then he proposed that Baidu should be all in AI. He firstly joined YC China. Back then, YC started like a separate company in China. And then YC China was separated from YC. And then he rebranded this entire thing into a new sort of incubator in China. And the model is very similar. They organize these kind of interviews, and all the entrepreneurs need to apply. And they will have like a super quick group session to interview you, and then they decide if they want to give you some money to get started. I think the terms probably like it's similar, 7%, but I need to double check on that if I'm wrong. I think firstly, Lu Qi is a person who's he's really technical. He used to be the #1 tech guy in Microsoft, and Bill Gates was super trusting him for a lot of the decision making. And I believe he was the lead for Bing Search. So very interestingly, he talked about that in the presentation as well, because recently Bing Search really took off, and back then without the enablement of AI, Bing wasn't as popular as today. But just all of a sudden it became super popular. I'm not sure if that's the reason why. Like he's super keen into AI. And when he was in Baidu, he was already super keen in AI. But nowadays, because of Gen AI and all the platform infrastructure being built for Gen AI, he becomes more and more excited from an investor's perspective for AI, just like the entire Silicon Valley. And he also mentioned, like, for example, when he met Sam Altman back then, he was just a 19-year-old boy or something like that.
I would say OpenAI did a great job and a terrible job at the same time. Let me explain why. They did a great job because you can build an agent with dazzling demo very easily, cool demo. But it's super difficult to build a really useful agent. Honestly, I have yet to see an agent, single one that's useful. You can reliably use that. If you find one agent, tell me. I can't find it. Because you just can't build that. The way OpenAI provides the developer experience is just not good enough. I talked to them.
I'm not sure if I misheard that, but that was very cool. That he's basically like, I guess, the pioneers in tech and in engineering and AI. He did his PhD at CMU for very low level computer stuff. I think he mentioned he was studying operating systems. So he was sort of rethinking, what does operating system mean in an AI age? And he believed that AI is basically the new computing engine for the next generation of computing. It's the new era. And he believed that AWS is not doing well because AWS spent it so much on cloud computing, but the future is probably model computing, or a lot of the 2B use cases will become that they would need resources to empower their AI systems. But yeah, anyways, his sharing about AI was a lot of emphasis was on platforms and building the infrastructure.
Platform infrastructure. always this go first. I'll tell you more about this. There's already trillions of dollars, tens of billion dollars investing in this. If you are founders, my honest feedback for you is this is easy money. This is really easy money. If you do infra serving or whatever, new optical interconnect, new RDMA or whatever you want to do, because it's different computing. For sure you will make money. Seriously. It's so straightforward.
Because we're sort of in this gold rush age for AI, you can see that the majority of the startups out there for AI are sort of building applications.
And the next is building applications. Building applications, I want us to think systematically, right? So essentially we have consumers, businesses, and creators. And you essentially divided by Maslow hierarchical needs, different demographic groups. And you can systematically see all the possible opportunities.
Which makes sense, right? Because in the mobile age, a ton of people are just building use cases, and it worked well. It was easy for startups, founders to get started with. And similarly today, I believe like the OpenAI API and a lot of the other open source AI infrastructures like Llama or Llama, depending on the language you use, are like the new Swift or the new Kotlin or Java for you to write like iOS apps and Android apps back then. It's just now people are building like a lot of the applications are just wrappers around these closed source models. So he believed that, I think Sam Altman also shared something similar in a YC alumni event in San Francisco here, I think a couple of weeks ago. He mentioned that all wrapper companies are going to die because of the fact that the involvement of AI, the involvement of Gen AI is so fast that the next generation of ChatGPT could just overthrow tens of thousands of startups. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it could overthrow a bunch of super carefully built wrappers around OpenAI APIs. And I believe Lu Qi believed in something similar. So that's why he was super emphasizing on building whatever tools that are like super foundational for future AI applications. If you could build infrastructure of AI for like specific verticals in an industry, or you can have something that can help people to train like AI agents, that's like basically, like the people who are selling the toolboxes during the gold rush, right? Like everybody's looking for gold, and you need the infrastructure, you need the tools to explore the gold, to collect the gold. So that makes sense. And I think from a higher level, it's all about whenever there's a new technological innovation, a trend, you have to be ready to democratize these capabilities to all sorts of industries, all sorts of founders, because that's the only time when this technology is going to take off for a really long time. So you need these foundational stuff. On top of that, it was an idea during the small sharing. He wasn't a huge supporter for PhD founders. Nothing against being a PhD, because we had a PhD person in the room. We had like 15 people in the small discussion. It was funnily awkward when after he said that, the person stood out and said, I was a PhD. I was looking for entrepreneurial advice. But his point is that a lot of the times, like you just got to find the vertical that you're truly passionate about. Sounds like cliche, but for someone like him, he truly believed it. He said that a lot of the times, like from his investors' incubator perspective, the founders who are going to eventually make it are those who have huge determination. So if you can do something consistently for a really long time, it's more likely that you're going to win. So that's the part that I feel a little bit contradictory to PhD. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think PhD students like spend a lot of time like researching in one direction and become the pioneer, become the most state-of-the-art person in that area. And similarly, if you are like an entrepreneur in education or in retail or in finance, fintech, whatever, you spend a ton of time in doing research and understanding your customers. I think these all count as determination. But I believe maybe perhaps he meant like you need to have a bit more like a real life business related kind of mindset, so that you can sort of keep iterating from a building a business perspective. Whereas if you're doing just research for 5 to 6 years, you might be like too disconnected from the real world. but let me know what you think. Basically, he said building something in your vertical for a long time, just keep iterating, forget about looking for money. That was from like a perspective of like, if you want to eventually make it, you need to be the person who truly believe in yourself, even if the external factors don't really support you. So one example he mentioned is that one experience he mentioned is that he said like almost all startups are gonna go to a dead end at 1 year after they started the company. They either run out of money, they either run out of trust from the team, they run out of patience, they run out of customers' trust, stuff like that. So he just said that he just took it for granted because probably he saw too many projects that fail in the past. So it just feels natural to him that you're gonna run into troubles. So at that point, if you're like true believer in that education will be fully disrupted by technology and AI, then you wouldn't feel lost. You would continue with your path. And another interesting thing was that he really believed in that it's okay to not have a co-founder. Let me know what you think. But his thoughts were different from say what YC US would tell you. He said that a lot of the founders, they want to be a founder because they want to be a boss, because they don't want to follow the rules, follow the hierarchy, follow the authority in a large corp, because they want to start something that they would take responsibility in. So they start a company. He said like from this perspective, it's okay if you don't have a co-founder, and don't even actively go look for a co-founder because that would slow you down. Just go explore by yourself and go validate your ideas out in the wild. And perhaps because he was technical, so he didn't worry too much about say the technical challenges. But I can imagine like if a founder who is less technical, and especially they want to build a digital product, it probably there will be a lot of difficulties for them if they're like single founders. But I think I get his point, which is don't let the fact that it's difficult to find a technical co-founder or find a co-founder after all to slow you down from exploring the direction that you're interested in. And that perhaps makes sense. He mentioned that in a startup world, oftentimes it's important to have like this one person who talks with super assertiveness. He likes the fact that if a team has a bunch of co-founders, but there's one person who eventually will make that decision, who eventually will be the main voice in decision making, he thinks that these kind of things would survive. And I guess that makes sense, because in a startup world, oftentimes the decisions, there's no right or wrong answers. You just gotta trust your gut feeling. You just gotta trust like the multiple information sources that make you feel like this is the right decision, and just make that decision. Whereas if it's too democratic when it comes to board level decision making, sometimes things don't work out because you gotta move fast. You gotta survive. And when I say it's a little bit contradictory to what YC shared, is that YC US really recommended that you should give your co-founder almost as equal of share as you can. So like it's not like they don't recommend 90% 10% of a split up if you have two co-founders. They recommend that almost as close as you can, because they believe that the original idea wasn't the thing that matters the most. What matters most is that you trust your co-founder to be the person who would continue to help you build this thing. It doesn't matter whose idea it was from the beginning, because they don't want you to underestimate the amount of effort it needs for the execution and for going through all the difficulties for the next 2 to 5 years. So I think these are two school of thoughts or philosophical beliefs for building startups, because I can see the value in both, but I can also see the drawbacks in both, right? Let me know if you think which one is better. And maybe it depends on the industry, right? Because for some industries, perhaps it's super important to have a founder who just believed in that this is the right user experience. But for some other industries, probably like more technical parts, you gotta like have a very strong technical team to provide thoughts, provide values. So you need to collaborate with them. But these are all, I guess, depending on the exact use case. So yeah, last but not least, I think I got really inspired and energized by Lu Qi. He provided a sort of a different voice from what most of the investors or incubators would tell you from the U.S. And perhaps his perspective is more sort of I personally think it could be cultural as well, because in Asia it's more common to have a strong leader in a business, and the culture is like we respect people who have more experiences, who have the authority, but at the same time we expect the leaders to encourage the people who are followers to provide more value. Whereas in the US, I can feel like it's usually it's more about like having a debate and having put your thoughts on the table, and then let's discuss, let's challenge the authority. And both ways have made big progress in different things, right? It's interesting to have a different school of thoughts in the incubation and startup world. So let me know how you feel about it. Looking forward to connect more on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thanks for watching. Peace.